First things first, out and about with the iPhone Air. It is light in the hand, almost scary. It's not the first thin phone I've held, but it is the thinnest phone I've held.
Now everybody scream enough respect to the X. Enough respect given.
Now, as always, we don't expect a lot from these unboxings. These companies seldom send anything in the box besides the phone, and maybe, if you're lucky, a charging cable and a power brick. With Apple, you are seldomly that lucky, at least you haven't been for years. So let's get into it. Here is the iPhone Air. It has a little paper on its screen. We'll take a quick look at that, but let's see what is in the box. I think I had the box upside down, technically. USB-C cable. It is a braided cable, so that's actually kind of cool. This should last a lot longer than some of the older. I don't think these are prone to get shorts and all of that, like some of the cheaper cables are. And then here we have, turn that around, the word iPhone. Maybe there's paperwork here. Paperwork, and it says here, you no longer need a physical SIM card. No ish. That is not a good thing, Apple. Not a good thing. Stop acting like it is. But now let's look at the phone itself. This is supposedly the gold version to it. And in all truth, it looks just like a white with a slight gold tint on the frame. If you told me this was the quote-unquote white one, I would be prone to believe you. Because there's not really anything to make it stand out as the gold iPhone Air. Let's take out this paper here, the screen. And there it is. Now, along the side we have volume buttons up and down. I think this is the silence button, or I think now they have an action button. I haven't had an iPhone since the 14, so I'm not exactly sure. And here is another button. I think, what's this, the camera action button? Or the action button? And here we have some type of touch panel on the side. I guess I'll see what all of that is once I power this guy up. We have a very thin USB-C port. One would think those are speaker grills beside, but they are not. I'm not even sure what they are. Maybe for a case, maybe pogo pins. Up top, nothing at all. Around back we have the camera plateau, as they call it, and a single camera lens and a flash. Maybe this one here is for depth. Note, there is no SIM tray, and it's odd not seeing the SIM tray, though on the 14 Pro there was also no SIM tray, but it was a much thicker device. And that is it. This is the gold iPhone Air. Now, just for comparison's sake, let's put the Air up against... Oh, this is actually a button. Huh. Go figure. Let's put the Air up against my iPhone 14 Pro. Now, my Pro is in a clicks case. To me, it makes use of the phone that much more interesting and better. I do love tactile inputs with my devices, whether it be a keyboard or a stylus. The Air has no such accessories, at least not yet. But let's take this off. Now looking at the Air is a larger device, though my Pro has more cameras on the back. They'll tell you this is 4 cameras. It's not. Comparing them side by side, the Air is just a little bit more than half the thickness of my 14 Pro, which is impressive, being that the Air is supposedly more powerful than my 14 Pro. They claim 90% faster processing in the Air with their A19 chip as compared to the 14 Pro. And I'm prone to believe them. Apple does tend to move really quick with these things. There you see the bottom of the devices. I mean, as thin as the Air is, it is a little wide, but then again, the Air is the size of what was once the Plus. Same buttons, only the Pro has a nice little switch as opposed to the action button. Now with the camera plateau on the Air, it does give it the illusion that it's almost as thick as my 14 Pro. But of course, when you put them at the bottom there, you see such is not the case at all. Now the Air is eSIM only, so we are going to have to send this eSIM to this phone here. Last time I did this, it was from a physical SIM, but it didn't take long, so I assume it's the same here, maybe even a faster process. But let me get this done, and we'll see just how well the Air works with the new version of iOS 26. Glass does look nice. Okay, people, the setup is done. So the first thing about the Air that you notice right off the bat, at least physically, is just how thin this guy actually is. Let me just cut that away. This phone here is very different from anything Apple has done before. Why I say that is, when I got this phone, I showed it to my wife, to the kids, and my daughter said something very profound for her. That's a Samsung phone. She doesn't know Apple to take chances or experiment with different form factors like this. And though she might be only 12 years old, she's seen all the iPhones that I've gone through, that her mother has gone through, her cousins, her uncles, her everything. Everyone, friends, all have different iPhones. No matter the iPhone, up to this point, they all had a very similar look. Maybe the size was just slightly off, small, medium, large, but the iPhones themselves were always pretty much the same thing across the board. If you didn't know about the internal specs and the upgrades with the software, you can really just look at one iPhone and say, well, that's an iPhone. This, on the other hand, is the standout thus far. Kind of like when they introduced the iPhone 10 or the iPhone X. That was such a radical departure from what iPhone was known for when they first came up with the what did they call it? The notch and the Face ID, and they got rid of Force Touch and no more headphone jack for a more uniform look around the entire device. It was kind of polarizing for what it was. This phone offers a very similar experience to that. It's such a departure from what we're used to with iPhone. All right, people, the time is 5:35 a.m. and I'm about to take the iPhone Air on its day. Don't know how long it will last. It should be fun. You know, using an iPhone as my daily is kind of unnerving, but we'll see. Let's get into it. So the phone pretty much has 100%, and we're just going to really play an audiobook during my AM run. Also, this phone looks really good as I walk around the city looking at it during my layover. It is to admire the design of this thing. It's just a beautiful device. So the time is now 8:44. As you saw, I left the house at 5:35. So it's been just over 3 hours. And in that entire time, I have been on my audiobook, did a call, went online for a bit during my layover, and during my walk back to the bus, I'm watching YouTube. So, not much, but you know, pretty much what I do on the regular. Now let's check the battery power. We are on 81%. So, I'll give it right. About 20%, or to be exact, 19% and change in 3 hours. So I'm home on my break, and I've been using the Air the entire time during the ride from work. I'm not exactly sure how well this thing is going to perform as the day goes on, because already the power is significantly lower. I'll take a quick look at that. We are at 61%. And if I remember correctly, not even an hour ago, we were at 81%. Was it 81? Yeah. So we have gone down 20% in about an hour. And that was because I was actually doing stuff on the phone, not just playing, like I said, my audiobooks, you know, the few things I did during my AM run. So, it is to be concerned. I'm not sure if this battery is going to get through the day. And this isn't even me trying to do, you know, the heavy stuff. While I'm on my way back to work, and the phone has, quick look here, 26%. Now, it is now, let's see, what time is it? Hear this crap. 2:07. I have another 5.5 hours to go. Now, I know they say that the battery on these slim phones are bad, but this thing is barely getting through half a day of, I guess for me, a little bit more than average use, because I did have to download some games to play. But yeah, I'm not going to top it up when it dies. It dies, I'll note the time, then I'll charge it up when all is said and done. But so far, no good as far as battery is concerned. Well, the time is now 5:30, and the Air has 10%. Still though, the average workday is 9 to 5. So the average person with this phone who doesn't have an extended workday like myself would be able to get through their workday with average use and get home and give it a quick top up before heading out for the evening. So yeah, pretty much all day battery life for the person or the customer this phone was intended for, not the power user. In all truth, it lasted longer than I thought. I mean, for the past, 3 hours, I didn't really use it because it hit 4%. I threw it in my pocket. But it's holding on to dear life 1% at 8 o'clock. I mean, you can't do nothing with that, but it didn't die. So, I haven't been using this guy all day. It's kind of hard to adjust to iOS from Android, even though this is iOS 26 in all its glass glory. I am really not used to using an iPhone as my daily driver, and that is my issue. I do need to change over how I do things. Yes, I have text and I have all of that, but for one, I'm used to using a physical keyboard, as on all of my main devices, at least the one I've been using recently. I have the Click keyboard on both my iPhone 14 Pro and my Pixel 9. And for the phone that doesn't have the keyboard, my Ultra 24, at least I have the S Pen to write things down. You know, I love physical input. This device has none of those. So it is to get accustomed once again to just tapping on glass for everything. And like I said before, I don't really have the phone set up like my Android devices because iOS simply couldn't do it before. So I do need to go in and kind of change the way I think about Apple devices and how I can use these things, because once again, having to use an Apple device or wanting to test out not just the iPhone Air but also iOS 26 is something I need to adjust to, or something I need to adjust for. One thing I do miss is the ability to split screen any 2 or 3 apps depending on the device. I had thought that iPhone was not able to do that, but apparently, as I'm reading this now, the only split screen you can do is watching a video on YouTube, bringing down the window, and then opening another app. I wouldn't call this a split screen per se. Maybe I'm wrong, but reading the article itself, that's all they show me is possible. It's not the fault of the phone, but more of the OS. But it is something that would make me reconsider switching to iOS, even with this amazing looking and feeling device, because I do a lot of split screen work on my regular phones. And as much as I watch YouTube, who doesn't? Not having the ability to actually do 2 productive apps, more productive than YouTube and any other app, is a knock against switching to iOS. Though it is kind of cool that you are able to tuck away your video when you need your full screen to do whatever you are doing. So that's nice, but still. So messing around with iOS 26 to try to make this device my own, like I try and do, whether I decide to keep it or not, you still want the full experience to, help your decision in these type of things. And I finally figured out how to get the whole glass look for the device. Now, I went in, and of course I went to clear, and that looks pretty good. But then I found I could go here and customize the look of what is on my screen. So of course I have to go with the purple. That looks great. And light it up a bit. That looks pretty good. Not going to go crazy. Now take it away. Now I thought this was the point that would sell me on the device. Finally my home screen looks decent enough with the purple on it, nice little blurred background, and I figured I could find some widgets and such to, just bring it all together, a lot like an Android device. But when I went over here, why is the widget also purple? iOS does not differentiate between the apps and the widgets, especially the ones that show any kind of picture. Now, if it was able to do that, we might have a winning combination here. Change all these little apps that I can't hide, at least not easily, to at least something I'd rather look at. Like here, they are still in color. Keep the widgets how they're supposed to look. So here we go. Apple TV. Within the widget, you see the proper color. In Spotify, same thing, proper color. But for reasons beyond me, in photos, it is not. Now, gaming on the air is something that I really wanted to try. Main reason being, I am a gamer at heart. And since the, iPhone 15, I think it was, where they got the ability to play quote unquote console quality games, I've been curious just how console like they are. So, Resident Evil Remake, or Resident Evil 4 Remake, was one of those games that are readily available to play. And though I'm not much of a fan of the touchscreen controls, I have to say the game does look good. It looks really good. There's certain parts where the light is coming off of a candle, and you see it on his jacket, on his hair. Really good light source emulation here. It just looks really good. Now, one thing I have to say, when I was gaming in this one, and a few others, and I don't consider it an extended period of time, but longer than I would usually game on my iPhone, you did feel the heat begin to resonate from the camera plateau, or right underneath it. Like they say, this phone has no vapor chamber to disperse that heat that comes from long periods of use. So it does become quite obvious that something is going on when you're unable, or when your fingers begin to get warm. But that aside, I am impressed with what this game, or what the phone can do. As thin as it is able to render some pretty impressive graphics. Now, speaking of not liking touchscreen controls, I did try my Razer Kishi controller with the iPhone Air. It is a USB-C interface, but alas, it doesn't work. Even when I thought it might be a power issue, I plugged in the power cable. Maybe the phone isn't capable of reverse use, but note, even with it plugged in, the phone does say it's getting power. There it is, but the control does not work. I even tried the controller with things like Game Pass to no avail. So I can't say USB-C controllers don't work, but this USB-C controller does not work. But if you happen to have a Bluetooth controller nearby that can adjust to the phone or the device it is trying to connect to, in this case, an iPhone, you do get the ability to use your controller to play your game and have that more or less on-the-go console experience. Not a bad way to play, especially when the game does look so amazingly well. Now, thankfully, the USB-C port doesn't seem to give issue with headphones. I tried 2 pairs of wired headphones and my over-ears, and they work just fine with the phone. No issues at all. So if AirPods aren't your thing, at least you know you have options here. Now, with a phone as thin as this, you do want some protection for it. Now, Apple does say that it'll never break, it won't scratch. It's their most durable phone ever, the iPhone Air. And if you go online, you do find some claims to back that up. But I did go ahead and get a case for it, not an Apple case, a case off of Amazon that would give my phone not only protection, but a little purple to help, be it more, make it more my own. It just pops in there and boom, there you go. Now, looking at the case, it does add a bit more girth to the size of the iPhone Air, kind of taking away the entire aura that is the thinness of this phone. My naked iPhone 7 Pro is still thicker than it by every metric. But when you do need some kind of protection for your slim device, and you don't completely take what the manufacturer says, or you take it with a grain of salt, as they say, to get a case, even on your thin phone, is probably the best way to go. See, just dropped the phone. So even though the case kind of takes away from the thinness of the iPhone Air, it does alleviate one major issue. The table wobble. The case evens out the back camera plateau so that when you place it on the table, no longer can it wobble to and fro, making for a somewhat dangerous placement if you know something was to happen. Completely balanced, completely even, as all things should be. So it's its standards. As for the Magsafe on the iPhone Air, one thing I will say in comparison to my iPhone 14 Pro, the magnets on the back seem more powerful. And now on my iPhone 14 Pro, I can put it on and it comes off pretty easy. It doesn't really, it sticks, but it's not a really secure fit, if you know what I mean. I know this is not an official Apple product, so maybe they cheaped out on it. I'm not exactly sure. And I put the same thing on. It's a much more better connection. I can only attribute this to better magnets for MagSafe in the Air, and that's odd because the Air is as thin as it is. You would think they'd be able to hold larger magnets or more powerful magnets in the 14 Pro, but that apparently is not the case. Now let's take a look at the iPhone Air camera. I've always said I'm not a big camera guy when it comes to these devices, but the iPhone is known for its photography and its video, and they claim that the single camera on the back of this device is actually pretty good, and the front camera has some tricks of its own. Let's take a look. So the iPhone Air has this camera here, but you can use this little button up here, and they call this the camera control. You press it, and like with many Android devices, it just opens up your camera app. The trick here is you can kind of half press it, and you get this little software thing here, and you can slide along the top and change to the various cameras that the phone has. Just so happens that the Air doesn't really have much beyond the quote-unquote 3 cameras. You can flip it, you can zoom in close, and have your regular view. With the video, it's pretty much the same thing. A little half press, and you get the software, and you can slide your finger along the top and change the zoom and flip to the front-facing camera itself. When you hold the button, it does start to record video for you, so that's cool. You don't have to actually touch the screen to activate any of the camera features. Now, the camera itself, or the app itself in iOS 26, is actually pretty cool. You have 2 buttons at the bottom, but when you slide your finger across, you get all the other options you might want to use. So time-lapse, slow-mo, portrait, all of these things that we've done before. There's a little button up top that opens up the other menu, which has other options for the particular camera function you're in. Now, let's say I go into the photography option. Here you will see flash and live exposures aspect, but we'll try the styles. And I do like the various styles that it has as well. You go to black and white, a bit more lively, dynamic, stark black and white. And if those don't suit your fancy, you can rub your finger in this little area and adjust it to your liking. So let's take a look at some of the pictures and videos I've taken with the Air, and you can decide for yourself just how good the cameras on this really thin iPhone are. Walking towards the bus, front camera video sample of the iPhone Air. Here is the garage. Can I flip this thing over? Okay, this is the picture-in-picture. Now, not the first time I've used this. The first time I've used it on an iPhone, so that's interesting. Here's my bus for the day. Pretty good feed. Let's go. Well, I'm technically I'm recording the phone because it's the Air, and it's a really good view of Vegas, so that kind of just works out. Very nice. If nothing else, it's a really fun camera to use, as seen here by my kids, and even if it happens to drop, it's pretty durable. So I've been using the iPhone Air for pretty much exactly a week now, and my biggest takeaway from this device is it's an iPhone. I know that's not very exciting, and I'm pretty sure that most watching this might expect, something more than that. But in all truth, maybe it's my bias coming through, but for everything it is and everything it's not, it's just another iPhone. And can't say I'm disappointed. It's pretty much expected at this point. I remember back in the day when iPhones would come out and I would go to the store and they'd be on display and I would look at them, I'd touch them, I'd feel them, I'd get a taste for what the device was. Then I'd swipe left, I'd swipe right, and that would be it. The interest in iPhones just isn't there beyond, in this case, the physicality of it. There was a day it was in my pocket the whole time, and I kept on going to the V2 and the Pixel 9 because those are the phones. Not only am I accustomed to them, what they offer me is more in the vein of what I do. Now, I've always had an iPhone. I had the iPhone 14 Pro. The phone started to get much more use when I added the physical keyboard to it. And that might be an issue with this particular device here. As much as I love this beautiful screen, it's beautiful. As much as I love the lightweight design of it, as much as I just love the feel of it, the weight of it, it is something truly special to behold. It doesn't offer anything overly different from my previous iPhone experience. iOS 26, okay, people. It's on my iPhone 14 Pro as well. USB-C is on every other phone, so I guess for an iPhone that's a good thing. But then again, all of my USB-C peripherals and such don't particularly fit this phone because it is made in such a way it's a little tighter than the average USB-C connection. The cameras. I'm not a big camera guy, so you know, the cameras are fine. I'm not going to complain. They take some pretty good shots, but the quality of the camera doesn't determine the worth of a phone to me. Now, the front-facing camera, the way it can adjust from wide and starts to fit everyone in the shot without you having to turn the phone on its side, that's cool. That is a very neat feature, and I know every other company is just going to copy that eventually. I'm surprised they haven't already. But the selfie camera aside, and of course the shape and weight, you know, the design of the iPhone Air, there isn't really anything else there that piques my interest. And I really tried to get beyond my bias against iPhones. I've always found them kind of boring. That's why, though I'm always interested in them when they try something new, or when they claim they created a new way of doing something, when in all essence they just pretty much made the way of doing it maybe a little better. So I'll give them, you know, credit for that. But in using this, it only served to cement my views on iPhone in general. No matter how you package it, an iPhone is simply that. Just an iPhone. So with that said, my name is NG, the Neon X, and enjoying the iPhone Air for what it is. Though at times I wish it was something better. This is what I'm into. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I'm really playing this game. It's like it's doing everything by itself. I have no idea what's going on. Somehow I'm killing things and winning, and all I do is press the screen and it does the rest. What kind of nonsense is this?